everybody. Welcome to Evening TV. I just kind of wanted to wrap up, bring full circle this whole Mother's Day thing and this whole deal with the estranged mothers that I saw online and all that stuff. My mother had sent me an email, her first since my son died, so almost a year. And it was an email to say, you must have a heavy heart on Mother's Day. And so I decided that I was going to test my theory out, to poke the bear a little bit and see, ask my mother some questions and see if she sounded, how much like these people she sounded like. And also just to, take her temperature to see if she was any closer to sanity, to see if there was any growth, any change. Even though we know that there is no growth and change, we know better, I know better. But the reason that we are estranged, my husband told them that I told him it's having flashbacks to childhood. And that I was starting to tell him all these crazy things that I was thinking happened and all this. So he went and told my parents that, knowing full well they are overt narcissists. So what overt narcissists will do is when they think they're under attack, and to them, my having these flashbacks from childhood or whatever it is, it doesn't matter if they even really have something to hide. Just my coming out and just they're thinking that I would even come out and accuse them of anything, or even that I would refuse to go along with the story, refuse to keep seeing them the way that they wanted to be seen, which was as perfect parents, and that I had this perfect childhood. If they got the idea that I wasn't going to continue doing that, they would fight me as though for their very lives they were fighting, and that is exactly how they acted. They acted like it was them or me. So this did a couple of things. It got him off the hot seat and also got them really looking at me. So, and I had no idea that he was doing this. And to me, it just seemed like everyone was mad at me all the time. What it was he was getting suspicion going. He was getting everyone in the family suspicious. He was just, poisoning all relationships. He saw all these narcissistic people with all these fears that they wore right on their sleeves. Because my parents were not slick. They were not like he was. They were very clearly wanted to be seen a certain way, and were very childlike in their ability to be read and seen like that, whereas he wasn't at all. So they wanted to be seen as smart and better than and all this stuff, and perfect and blah blah blah. And so he came in and told them that they were everything that they wanted to be. Played that game for a long time, and basically had slowly but surely over the course of 10 years had weaseled his way in between us. And they were very susceptible to flattery, and so he flattered them, and so they automatically liked him better because he flattered them. Whereas my just very existence and the fact that I knew them, because I grew up with them, the fact that I knew who they were, and the fact that I was anything but always 100% happy, and if I had anything wrong with me, any sadness, any insecurities, anything, they took that as an act against them. So my depression that then led up to this heart attack as reflecting badly on them. And they wanted me gone. And they very much acted like it was me or them. And so as soon as I didn't die from this heart attack, it was swift and cruel how they just started just destroying me and ganging up on me and sabotaging my friendships and all this stuff. And they wrote declarations for him in court. They tried to take property from me. They tried to steal things that were given to me by my grandmother. They had done all kinds of just really outrageous things, and created a conflict situation for my children that was just unbearable. And so I read this email from my mother, and it really is just insane. I mean, it really is absolute fantasy. And the whole family basically fell apart. I mean, as soon as it was is at this very same time also my grandmother's died. So it was, I mean, everything just kind of happened at once. Right at the time when I had my heart attack, soon after that my grandmothers all died, and them not being accountable to my grandmothers on top of it also was just like all hell broke loose. Once it did seem that my grandparents' presence kept my parents' behavior in check, and once there wasn't that, it was really out of control. And there was really no one with keeping the whole family value thing just seemed to fall apart once my grandmothers weren't there. So everything that I perceived about my family just was an illusion. It just started just kind of falling apart. So it was all very, very sad and tragic for me, and I was not prepared for it at all. So here I am in my absolute moment of need. I'm like afraid that I'm going to die. I've got these little kids. I'm now disabled and in tons of chronic pain. I can't talk to anybody about anything that's wrong with me because I'm not allowed to need anything. It's just a really awful situation. I'm in a really vulnerable position, and I have to act like I'm not. I have to act like I'm fine. And my husband and my mother basically let me know that because I'm taking a lot of pain medicine, and they insist that I keep taking it. I try a couple of different times to ask them if they'll help me out more so that I can stop taking it, or if I can, and they won't. And they won't. They insist that I keep taking it, and then even when I ask if they'll help me to go to detox, they both say no. Then they use it against me. Then they act like it wasn't that way. They act like I'm a drug addict. That's what they act like, and they come out together. They come out together smearing me. We do the smear campaign. So, in a nutshell, that's basically what that little period of time was about, and that's how this whole thing basically started. And so it's like they kind of seem to, like, they get kind of nice, and they kind of like are offering me an olive branch, it seems. But really what the offer is this. It's that, okay, the divorce is over, there's no more for them to gain. They've done some really bad things. I've had to fight them. They've cost me thousands and thousands of dollars. They've helped hundreds of thousands of dollars probably, but thousands just directly. But in terms of what they helped my ex-husband do, who even knows? Outrageous amount that they harmed me was just, some might say unforgivable. And I don't really think anything is unforgivable, but one is truly sorry and they come to you and ask you for forgiveness, and they want to change and all that, that's never even come close to happening here. The difference it would have made to have had a family because my husband leaves me destitute, absolutely destitute. And because of my family and him, I'm also completely isolated. And in the town where I grew up, I am now a complete and total, like, worse than a stranger. I'm a complete pariah, basically. No one here has really any idea what's real and true. I have no idea really what everyone's been told. My being quiet, my keeping to myself only helps. It only helps them perpetuate. But as we do, I isolated for several reasons. I isolated because I didn't know who to trust. I isolated because I was so traumatized. I isolated because I wanted to keep peace for my kids. There were a lot of reasons that I isolated, but I did stay isolated for basically all this time. And the reasons might have shifted and changed some, but I definitely started rebuilding a life with all new people, and didn't just left all the people I knew before to them. My mother's response to my email was completely, it may as well have been the mission statement for one of those podcasts or whatever that I was referring to when I was talking about that. It was complete misrepresentation of where we are and how we got here. It was basically, she said, "Oh, I am so sad and grieving for you. You clearly have such anger towards me and all of the family and all of your friends." So she does the classic things of like pathologizing me, just like in those recordings of that I had from before, where the mom is saying, "We all know everyone can see it, everyone but you." My mother was doing the same exact thing here. She was going, she wasn't just having a conversation about she and I, about her own feelings. She had to have the backing of all of the family, all of my friends. Okay, so there's a few things about that are interesting. Is how would she even know all the friends and all the family? That's just so completely narcissistic, and also so telling. She doesn't admit the fact that those relationships are like that because she sabotaged them, and clearly is keeping tabs on, why would she even know unless she was involved in it? So narcissists do tell on themselves. They do tell on themselves, for sure they do. So the important thing here is that the biggest thing it just kept coming to me over and over again is, when people can walk away from you, let them walk. And this is a hard one right now because it seems to have happened a lot. And when you go through hard times, it will. So Mother's Day came and went. I had friends that I haven't barely heard from since my son died, and I didn't hear from them on Mother's Day either. And I won't call them again. I just, that's just how it is. If, not to say that if they call me up, I'll be rude to them. I won't be, but more or less, those aren't relationships that I'm counting on anymore. This is not an easy thing for me because I am a person that really commits to people. And first 30 some years, at least, of my life, I didn't ever have anyone leave my life. I mean, I met someone as a little kid and they were in my life. They were at my 32nd birthday party. I didn't ever get in fights with people. People came into my life and, had decade-long relationships. Decades long. I just didn't have a lot of people coming in and out of my life. All of them were feeding each other, fueling a group think, a group mentality. I mean, it's just so sick because I'm sitting here thinking about this, the most vulnerable member of the family and her 2 little boys. And that's who they're picking on. That's who their enemy is. It's just so twisted. But they do hate vulnerability. They really do. When you're dealing with narcissists, you're also dealing with people who are very afraid. They're ruled by their fears. And if there's anything I know, it is that fears make people unpredictable and dangerous. Seeing my mother after all this time, after my sons died, after all this stuff, and seeing that she just has nothing to offer me. I mean, her response to my questions, her whole priority was being right. We can talk it all through in counseling. No, that was not the deal. That was not what they were saying. They did not want to do counseling. That would imply they had something wrong. It would imply they did something wrong. And just my even suggesting it is when they started saying, she abandoned us. That's when they started saying, she abandoned us. So about our connection, she didn't care at all about the truth. She didn't care at all about my feelings. She didn't care at all about our relationship or love or any of that. Didn't care at all about any of that. All she cared about was being right. And she had such an outrageous sense of entitlement. Every single lesson, episode that I do, it was like everything was just in shining, bright and shiny examples of it in my own mother. It was like how I said that they have such a sense of entitlement that they will do outrageously terrible things for over a course of a long time, but then when it comes to you or them making up for it, they expect you to just get over it. They expect, so they did all this really outrageous stuff and cost me a lot. I mean, basically cost me my son. And my mother's position in her answer was, it was almost like she was saying that she didn't like my tone of voice, like that that I was saying that she was a terrible mother. I never said she was a terrible mother, but anyway, what if I did? You know what I mean? Like, shouldn't I have said that? You know what I mean? But according to her, even though we're 16 years estranged, and she turned on me and sided with my sociopathic ex-husband and all this stuff, that I was still supposed to be able to tell her that she was a great mom and that any problem between us is my pathology, not hers, and anything that I would have against them is a overreaction. I wanted to have this close family. They wanted to look like they had a close family. So that's always been very confusing for me because it seems that we want the same thing, but we don't. They really don't want to be there for anybody as a family, but they don't want to look like the selfish narcissists that they are. I'm on a long line of people that my mother and father have done this to. If it wasn't that she was so dishonest and so hurtful to me. And if so much hadn't happened, I could see that it would be okay to meet my parents where they are and have sort of a superficial relationship. And that's what I would have always done had I not ended up having a sociopathic husband and having this crisis happen and having them so profoundly violate everything decent that a person should do, let alone a parent or a grandparent. They really played a significant role in making life really difficult for me and my kids. Seeing how little true feeling for us they have, true concern for us they have, really they don't have any, and they haven't lost. They've lost a lot, but they don't know it. I mean, what they're concerned about, what they're aware of losing is only just a small fraction of what they've really lost. They don't care about what they've really lost. I actually, all in all, so the end of the assessment is this. Now, this whole little thing of finding these estranged parents online has come full circle because it compelled me to contact, kind of check out my mom, see where my mom was coming from, see that yes, she is one of these people, and how deluded she is, and even after all that we've been through and where we are today, that how I feel about that is different than how I felt about it before this, and so. The thing that kept coming to me is be thankful for goodbye, be thankful for that. When people can walk, let them walk.